Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks again for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman podcast, where I have go-in conversations with fabulous people so that I can get their story out to the world. Because I believe, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that when we share our stories, we learn from them, we are inspired by them, and we connect. Now, that connection part is something that I'm super interested in, because I believe that when we connect, community happens, and I believe that community wins. And today, ladies and gentlemen, today I have the founders from the Wild Mother with me today, and I'm just going to jump right in and let them introduce themselves so we can get into this conversation. Ladies, introduce yourselves.
Hi, yeah, so you're right. We are the Wild Mother, floral designers out of Oklahoma City in the Arts District. I'm Leah Palmer, and this is my business partner and my sister, Leah Palmer.
Now, I just want to say that your website, I did glance at it, is beautiful. I know that's typically not the way you start something, but how did y'all come up with that? Who designed that? That was a beautiful website.
Thank you. That is my work. That's like across the years of learning how to do things for yourself and live pretty lean in the business. I picked up a few design skills. So yeah, it was fun. We had some help in the design process of our brand, but in terms of like spitting those thoughts out into a website or into graphics or whatever, that's all done in-house by me.
That's pretty cool. Now, is that website a continual work in progress, or did y'all think it all the way through and then just lay it all out there, or have y'all just continued to work on
it? It has, it was more of like a process where I like to work in a way where I just get it done. And then that way it can live for a little while. And if we need to make updates that are small, then we can do that. But yeah, no, it's pretty much set for a little while. We make changes for different events or announcements or whatever that we need to make, but yeah, we feel pretty happy with it right now.
Yeah, no, I think it is a very good looking site. And so when you were thinking of your website, what was the main thing that y'all were trying to convey, and how you said you had some help on it? What were you trying to convey, and how did you feel like you got to that place where it's like, okay, this is it?
Well, to give a bit of context, we were in a pivot point in our business. We were moving locations. So we were situated in a little loft space on Film Row off of Sheridan and Lee downtown. And we decided to make the move literally just diagonally across the street, and joined in with two of our really close friends. So we're sandwiched in the middle, our new spaces, our studio. So as we were processing through what that would look like, the move, we decided that would be a really good opportunity to do a rebrand. So we reached out to our original designer, and she got to work on a rebrand for us. So a lot of what we talked through in the rebrand process was what informed the website and its look and feel when Leah was designing it. So a lot of it, we wanted it to look like our upbringing. We wanted it to be warm and hospitable to all people. And we wanted there to be familiar colors and tones. So if you have the opportunity someday to visit our studio, one of the colors that we use throughout in our brand at this point is this like ruddy, like Oklahoma clay color. So we wanted it to be an extension of who we are and where we were raised and how we were raised. So it took some time to really flesh out the thoughts, but we don't like to do anything, in flippancy. So we think we landed somewhere where we were really happy.
Yeah. No, you did a great job. Now, talking about your
Thank
upbringing, warm, it's very warm. I felt that. Now, is there another sibling? And then what were you all like as kids growing up? Like, just give me the kid portion of who y'all were. What's the age difference?
Okay, so there's about 3 years between us. Lauren's older
Okay.
than me.
Okay.
There are 3 other kids. So we grew up in a house of 5 kids and our 2 parents. And we've always had like pets around too. So it's been like a big family. And it's honestly, it is spoken into so much of who we are. Everyone is very different. So do you do like Enneagram study or any kind of personality stuff?
No, but we were going to talk about the Enneagram because one of the things that I saw was that you highlighted your Enneagram numbers on your website. And so,
Yeah.
So we go ahead. Yeah, share.
Okay, so Lauren's an Enneagram 4 and I'm an Enneagram 7, and we are very opposite of each other in the way that we process like everything. We love a lot of the same things, but I think at the core what they mean for us or what they do for us might be a little different. So like when we share experiences with art or with family or whatever, usually we have different takeaways than each other. And I think that's part of the sort of the strong suit of us being business partners. But then we have other siblings who everyone has a different personality type, and learning those, especially into adulthood, has been really fun. We have one brother, our youngest brother, James. He is an Enneagram 8, and so his nature is to challenge and to confront, and he loves to like get into a good debate. So there are personalities like that that are really high energy, and then there are people like Lauren and our brother Bo. I don't know, what type do you think he is?
I feel like Bo might be a 5. He's super analytical.
Yeah.
He's very meticulous, and I don't know. Yeah, but he's also very quiet. Bo is. So yeah, I think Callie is situated right in the middle.
She's a good bridge between everyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, learning to like manage all of those personalities and find ways to get along and share. I think that's a big part of our upbringing, was that we were not wealthy, and there was not a lot of space to spread out with 5 kids. So we were basically stacked up on top of each other. Like you had to make it work.
Yeah.
You had to make your relationships work. And Lauren and I shared a room like our whole life. So I think, in hindsight, I don't know. Sometimes I think like if I'm ever wealthy, I think I'll still want to instill those values in my kids.
Yeah, totally.
That they remain like close and bonded through just like small spaces.
Yeah. So as kids, did y'all find yourselves, did y'all play a lot together, or was there this big brother, big sister kind of thing? And like, did you see some of the things that you see in each other now then?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there are 5 of us kids in our immediate family, but we have a lot of cousins. And our grandparents own a bit of land that's just outside of town. So it was very like bucolic and quiet. And so whenever we would go out there, there's a lot of room to run and play and get dirty and, skin your knee. And but yeah, we did a lot of like exploring and outside with each other. And I think I don't know, this might be just like natural just because of birth order, but a lot of times I kind of took a maternal type of role, like being sure that like everyone was cared for. And yeah, it sort of has like shown up in our relationships as adults now. And as we all are starting to like well, as a family grows, it's cool to see um, how our relationships still sort of remain, which is, I don't know, it's cool and it's comforting. It feels like home. So yeah.
I mean, I'm very daring, and so Lauren's maternal nature and her cautious nature has always been like a literal lifesaver for me. Like, as a kid, I would do wild stuff all the time, like climb trees or break bones. Like, I wasn't afraid to do those things, and I would always have Lauren in the back of my head saying like whether she was physically there or not, I would always have her in my mind, like telling me like, you need to chill out,
Just
bro.
relax.
Yeah.
Just relax.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. So when growing up, did y'all go to school together, or were you homeschooled? What was that like? Because you all would have spent some time together in at least high school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did go to school together. Our parents chose to homeschool all of their kids up to the 5th grade. So in the 6th grade, we started school, which meant that Lauren started school much earlier than I did. And so we had moments of like independence sporadically throughout, but really the way it all shook out was that Lauren and I were very much interested in arts and humanities. And the 3 younger siblings were really interested in sports. So we ended up going to 2 separate, I guess, pathways. Lauren and I went to high school at Classen SAS.
Okay.
And studied some art things there. And then the 3 younger ones were in sports at Westmore. So we would always commute into school together. And then they had more of a home base, like your more traditional high school experience.
Yeah. So when you all were in high school, were there any key moments that y'all can remember, maybe as bonding as sisters, or kind of helping you decide in what direction that you were going to go in afterwards?
That's a good question. I think we were very much, I don't know. I feel like we were on different pages when we were in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
We weren't best friends back then. I had my little friend group and Leah had hers, and we would regroup at home together and, pillow talk and stuff. But I think it wasn't until, so we went to the same university, and I think it wasn't until then that sisterhood started to feel really essential, and it felt like a lifeline. So yeah, we it wasn't until we got older into adulthood that that friendship really like started to, we were starting to see, our parents said that, or they tried to instill in us, like, these relationships are the most important that you'll ever have. And so like do your diligence to them, foster them, encourage them. So it wasn't until we got older that we noticed, like, oh man, yes, like stewarding these relationships is really important. Yeah.
That's cool. Was there a moment in college or something that y'all remember, like, man, we're starting to hang out together close? Like, was it ever verbalized that y'all started seeing this?
I think what really brought it together for us was playing music and leading worship together. So Lauren has an incredible musical talent. She can play anything, no lie. And I really wanted to foster like that bond, and so I would pick up instruments that could really easily support her. So we would, and then we both sing together. And I don't know if you've ever heard like siblings sing together, but there really is something incredible about having voices that sound really similar, and then people who understand each other well enough to anticipate each other musically. So we got really good at leading worship, and that was our touch point, was practicing together or stepping on to a stage in front of people. And then from there, we formed a band with some other friends at college. And I think that's when I really started to understand who Lauren was, not just as my sister, but just as a woman. We started doing more together, like cooking for each other and working together on the band. And I think that's really where some of the business identity was birthed in those relationships, or in that time where we were just really investing in each other.
That's cool. And so you're 3 years apart, a couple of years apart, I guess, in school. You graduate, right? And did you all continue to stay connected after you graduated from college?
So actually, I took a year off,
Okay.
And then I extended my time at OBU. I ended up it's kind of a long story, but I ended up studying music, and I had only a semester left, and then my life pivoted, and I jumped into anthropology pretty, intensely, and so I decided I wanted to finish with both, and I ended up staying an extra year. So we graduated the same year.
The same day.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
It
It was
made
good.
for good photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
And our
good.
family, I'm sure they were happy to get 2 of them done at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my God. So,
Yeah.
so you graduated together. When was the talks of maybe working together? Did that come right away, or did y'all go and do your own thing for a little bit?
Yeah, that stuff really set in, I think, at the end of college. We were both looking at, the end of the road. I was weighing an option between going to grad school for literature or not. And we were just taught, you know how you do at the end of a season, you start to wonder and ask questions about what could potentially be next. And so I do remember distinctly at least one really certain conversation. We were sitting in the Geiger Center together, which was the little student kind of rec hangout area. And I'm pretty sure that, we asked each other, what do you want going forward? And found that a lot of the answers were similar. We both wanted to work for ourselves, and we both wanted to do something creative. And so we started shaping ideas. And by no means did I foresee floristry, but not at least at that point. But I knew that I was going to work with Lauren at some point, and I knew that it would be in some creative capacity. So we did have a season apart. I went to grad school, and I got my master's in English, and Lauren went and started a career. And I think, what was that, at least
It's a couple of years.
a few, 2 or 3 years of sort of being apart. We even started jobs. I started teaching after I got out of grad school. And we were sort of managing the incubation period of the business with our other jobs and other things that we were doing. And then one day it sort of got real. Lauren made a choice. You can talk a little bit about this. I'm curious, but I remember Lauren saying to me, I don't think this business will ever take off if one of us doesn't fully commit and if one of us isn't full time. So that was a huge, kind of scary step for both of us.
Now hold on a second. Before we get to Lauren telling us about that moment for her, you all had already kind of started a side hustle.
Yeah.
Because I hear you saying that you had to decide on one of you going full time. When did the side hustle start? What was it? And was it flowers? Was the side hustle flowers? And how did you get to that place? And then, Lauren, we're going to come back to you and let you tell us when you decided, man, somebody needs to go full time. But tell me, how did the side hustle start? What were y'all doing?
We had a lot of side hustles.
Yeah, so we were playing in the band. I know you're from Guthrie, So we would play shows in Guthrie with our people. We would gig out and just like go around whenever we could while I was getting through school. We did have, I think where the flowers came into play was a friend of ours was getting married, and Lauren happened to keep flowers in her apartment a lot, and that was a memory from that time at college that our friend latched onto, and just asked like, hey, will you make a bouquet for me? And that's really where it started. That bouquet was not great.
It's not cute.
We were definitely learning and trying things together. We would show up to weddings for friends, and we would do music and also do flowers. So it was sort of like a hodgepodge of everything.
So your friend remembered you having flowers at your house, your apartment or whatever, and was like, I'm about to get married. Would you do flowers for me? And I guess the two of you decided, we'll do it. And y'all worked together
I'll do it.
on this bouquet or doing the bouquets and the flowers and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so our community in Shawnee was so tight, and it was kind of like a dream space, honestly. And everybody knew everyone and trusted everyone. And that doesn't mean that there weren't like, tensions or, sad times or whatever.
Sure.
But we made a commitment to each other to support each other. So I'm talking about maybe like 20 or 30 people. And we like cooked for one another. And so whenever weddings would happen, or whenever people would move to a new house or whatever that was, it was kind of like an all hands on deck mentality. So we, if one person was, like gonna be the caterer for the wedding, then someone else had to step up and be the florist, and someone had to be the songstress. And so anyway, as responsibilities started to get divvied out, we ended up, it was like tag, we were it for flowers, and it was a good experience, and there was so much grace in it because they were friends, and it already felt like it was a family wedding. But that started happening like more than just that one time. And honestly, those people were the reason that we got to cut our teeth on flowers and learn the industry and learn the product. People don't actually engage living materials on a day-to-day basis as much as, they might think they do. We engage, food and stuff, but it's a unique thing to handle materials that have just been cut and that could regrow, that could be propagated into something new. So anyway,
So do you remember your second and third opportunity to work with flowers? So you had this one, the bouquet. Do you remember your second, third? What was the next time you got to do it?
I think there were a couple more like friends we knew, and then I think where it really started to set in was, and I guess this is what I call our second one, was like someone we didn't knew gave us a call, or someone we didn't know gave us a call, and we were referenced to them through friends, and that was when it started to become a question in my mind, like, could this be something that we do long term? I see that it's fun, it's life-giving, it's creative, and I think also like we've learned enough. So yeah, we did some really like small weddings in a lot of rural towns, just through like friends talking about us word of mouth.
Yeah. And so then, Lauren, I guess at some point you were like, all right, what do we do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there was a moment where it just started to get kind of crazy. Like I would use my lunch breaks and I would stay up really late at night to order, to do all of my ordering for, the weddings, or to research the mechanics that I would use at the wedding the next couple of weekends. And it was just, it started to get a little burdensome. And so I, approached Leah about it. Like, we've got to make a decision. Like, is this something that we want to be just a hobby or a cottage industry, or do we want it to be something real? And if we choose the latter, then we have to make some really significant sacrifices. Leah, weren't you still in school at that point? Or had you just finished?
I think maybe I just finished.
So she was adjuncting at a couple universities, teaching comp classes. And I knew, like, if it's one of us, it's me, because my job was less pivotal in, like, the startup of my life,
Yeah.
I had been there for a while. And if we're sort of like just testing and incubating this thing, I didn't want Leah to end up stepping away from higher ed and then regret it later. So, anyway, I quit my job, and I didn't realize how much of a sacrifice that would be. I had some, money saved, and our family has always been, a support, when they can, like, here's a meal on your doorstep, or, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we, made that decision. I followed through, and then it kind of, spun out this, like, much longer and, like, larger narrative. And at this point, I'm feeling like, man, this is much bigger than myself. I'm glad that I was obedient to that, like, discernment early on.
Yeah. So what was it like that day that you were walking out the door, your last day at work? Was this still turning your head? What am I doing? Do you remember that day?
Yeah, I mean, it was the job was, like, it was really good money. And it was, I don't know, like, it was comfortable. I didn't really want for anything. And looking back, I know now that, like, I was frivolous with what I was given. So anyway, yeah, but I did, like, as I was driving away, I was like, I could turn right back around and say, like, sorry.
Yeah,
like,
joke.
Yeah.
Early April Fools.
Yeah, but I went home, and I was like, well, what now? Like, what do you do? So I immediately started jumping into, like, just as much as I could get my hands on where, like, education was concerned around the floral industry, and then also the materials that we would bring in.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty cool. Now, so at some point, how long was it when you did that to you'd making the decision to do the same thing? And what was that experience like for you? Because it was still scary, I'm sure, for you even at that point.
Yeah, it was scary. I mean, I think there was a year and a half gap between Lauren going full-time and me going full-time. Somewhere in there, I definitely started a teaching career, and there are things about that I still love and miss, and I plan on, exercising them in a new way one day, like, more directly for my community than at a university setting. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely scary. You're losing a lot of security in that moment, and you're basically, for us, it was a faith-based decision. Like, I definitely felt called to the business, and I also felt like the Lord would take care of me regardless. And so, but even then, that's a really risky moment. Like, how do you leave behind security, and even there's a little bit of loss of, like, identity sometimes in that, because for me, I was known in my workplace as a certain way and what I could do, and I was respected and loved for those things. So putting them aside all in one day was kind of nuts. But in between then, you know, you feel the tension, like, of you feel the tension of not living fully in what you're called to do. So sitting at my desk in between classes, or even like in that time I was doing a lot of night classes. So I would teach from like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the local little university down the street. So it feels uncomfortable, and you can sense that I'm not really living in the promise that I've been given. So I do remember like that tension building up in me, and I found what I felt like was the perfect window for making the move to full-time work. So yeah, it was weird, and there are still days sometimes when you're like, is that wise? Like it's funny, in the pandemic I definitely feel so prepared for a sense of like living really lean and living like knowing that like despite panic or any lack that I see in front of me, like I will be taken care of. That is a mentality shift that happened for me through the business. Because when you sacrifice so much, you take a risk like that, you lose a lot of comfort. So living in this pandemic season, I feel like, I'm good. Like
I kind of live this every day.
Yeah, like every day is risky. And, not to, devalue at all like the loss of life that's going on, but definitely the sense of fear around what happens to the business, like I can sleep at night with that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Explain to people what a boutique floral studio is. Like for us who are like, of course I have a sister kind of in the world, so I know a little bit, but explain to most people. I don't think most people would understand or know. What does that look like? What is y'all's day to day?
Yeah. So, essentially we're boutique studio floral designers that serve a lot of like large scale events and weddings. And that just means that we're event based. So we did have a component, like when we first opened our second little location, our second little spot. When we opened, we had like grab and go options, but we started to feel the tension there. Essentially, we will source the best blooms, and we will scour, the globe for the best. And because it is coming around like someone's wedding or a big nonprofit event or whatever, people are willing to invest in, something that looks a little more polished or unique than what you might find at the grocery store. So anyway, there's a lot of, we sort of go back and forth between a lot of like administrative work. So like Leah keeps our books and does a lot of like design work. So like we were talking about the website earlier, and then even like our graphics on our social media platforms, that's all Leah. We tag team client correspondence. I'm our buyer, so I have like a look on like what is happening like in the world, where like weather patterns are concerned, and then also like the political climate. All of that affects what we can bring in. So it's kind of cool that we are in a really interesting way, we're using what we are degreed in. So the way that I was sort of like trained to have an agile sort of like thought process around like people and their ways have helped me like understand like, I don't know, what I can get and what countries I can reach out to for it. And anyway, but then, so all of the administrative stuff is like a thing. But then like whenever we order flowers, let's say it's like the week of a wedding, we'll bring it in, bring the flowers in 4 or 5 days ahead. Because it's a perishable product, we have a cooler at our studio to keep them nice and cozy. And we process flowers. So sometimes it'll take up to 2 days to process everything. So that just means like stripping all of the stems and making sure everything is clean. We don't want bacteria in the water. And then we have design days. So we'll design everything, we'll fill our orders. And then on the day of the event, we go and install. So sometimes that looks like just delivering and placing centerpieces on tables. But sometimes people want like large scale concepts that we'll dream up months in advance, and then we'll go and put it all together with the team. So we have like freelance florists that are on hand that'll come alongside of us, and we'll like share the drawing or the concept with them, and then we'll make it happen.
Yeah. Basically what she's saying is like every day is different.
Yeah.
You play all of the roles. Yeah. And we're a little bit more exclusive. Like because it's just a team of 2, we and because we're artists, we care a lot about it looking unique to each client. And so we spend a lot of time there, and that makes this a little bit more exclusive. I don't know. It's hard to say what our day-to-day is.
No, I think I got a picture. There's some touching some flowers. There's processing some flowers. There's ordering, buying. So there's a lot, and that's done between just the 2 of you, and you all kind of divvy up the jobs the best you can. But sometimes you all work on things as a team. But one of the things I was wondering is, I know that you all didn't go to school specifically for this. So when did you realize, or was there a mistake in something that you did, for example, to know we don't want bacteria in the water? Like, was there a mistake you made, or a story that you have to share that you're like, okay, we need to not do that again? Give me that story or 2 stories.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, where do we start? I mean, you probably can imagine, like any business, it's just trial and error. And my business, in the way that I do it, can't look exactly like the studio floral designer next door. So we were like reading things and buying courses online and stuff like that. But when it came down to like actually doing it, and the practice of it, it was just like, I don't know, it was hard. So we learned early on, like, you can't overstuff a floral bucket.
Wait, tell him about, I'm just thinking of Jenna Napier's wedding. And that giant arbor.
Yeah, okay, so this is one of our first clients. She's a friend from college. She had, like, this really beautiful, like, large-scale wedding in Texas. So we were, super brand new, and we're just excited to get our hands on something larger. She ordered an arbor installation, and we were confident, yes, we'll be able to order all the products and get it to you. We ended up, it was crazy, on the way, and this is in December, on the way to, we had all these flowers in tow. I think we rent a U-Haul?
We rented a U-Haul, yeah.
Yeah. So we have all of these flowers in tow, and we reached the we're probably 20 miles from the state line, the Oklahoma-Texas state line, and then a tornado siren goes off.
Oh.
So we call our dad and we're like, Daddy, can you tell us? I mean, we don't have access to I don't think we had weather apps or anything back then.
Yeah.
But
So what year was this? What year was this?
Oh, 2014,
13.
Yeah,
Okay.
something like
Okay.
that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah, you might want to pull off and just sit at under a carport at a gas station. Yeah. So anyway, we stop, we pull over, and we waited out, and in 45 minutes, the threat had passed. So we continued. We were like, wait a second, is this an omen? Is this going to be a weird, a weird experience? So anyway, we ended up getting to the venue, and we had, some designing to do the day before. Anyway, on the day of, we get there, and this arbor is massive. 10
16 feet
yeah
tall? Okay,
yeah,
I might be exaggerating.
I think
it was huge.
It was very big. So we're like, wait, okay, so
y'all got a ladder?
Yeah.
We were not prepared.
Yeah, we ended up finding a ladder, and we weren't super educated on the mechanics that you could use for installations like that. So we ended up it was supposed to be this winter wonderland type of wedding. So we are just layering all of these winter greens. So this is a fun fact. In Alaska, that's a hot spot. They will start harvesting winter greens for your Christmas wreath and even Christmas trees and garlands and stuff like that in the summertime, and then they'll put them in storehouses, and they just stay there for months and months because it's so cold.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, we reach out to farms like that. We got all of these winter greens, and we started to get to the end, and the arbor starts to sway because it was so heavy.
Too much on
it was, yeah.
In hindsight, we wasted a lot of money making that thing because we didn't need that much product. But yeah, it was leaning. We were oh no, if this falls down on this bride while she's saying I do, what are we gonna do?
Yeah,
it was rough.
It was, yeah. Anyway,
it did not fall on them, but there have been moments like that all along the way where you're like, oh, I would not do it that way again.
Yeah.
You just kind of learn as you go.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing though? You have these trial and errors, but you stay in business. You feel after that moment, you're I am done doing this. But somehow the entrepreneur in you, or something that makes you want to overcome this, gets you to a place to where it's all right, we learned from that. Let's do the next thing, right? And so, how long have y'all been in business?
Officially, we filed our LLC 5 years ago in July. I think it's been about 7 years though, just working on flowers.
Okay.
Yeah, we took our first client in 2013.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you grow your business now? Is it word of mouth? How was social media involved in getting you clients? Where's the traction coming from?
Man, we try to track that a lot more than we did in the beginning. Now, I think early on it was pure dumb luck. Yeah. We didn't have any business training on how to market well, or on how to drum up interest on social media. Honestly, we launched with a giveaway on Instagram, and that was back in those days when giveaways are kind of novel. I think now they're kind of maybe overdone, but people shared our graphic a lot, and they wanted to win this giveaway. So overnight we had 1,100 followers on our Instagram. And that was really cool. It was a good like wind under our wings to start the business. Now that we track, it is actually interesting that the free ways of marketing, like social media, or like an email blast, or just pure like good-hearted, I don't know, it pays to be someone who really is caring towards your clients because they talk about you. There's no like evil motive about that, but it really does matter when you treat people well. So now that we can track where our leads come from, a lot of them come from either previous clients or they come from other vendors in the industry saying, work with these girls. The marketing platforms that we have used where we pay, it doesn't actually give us as much traction as we would like. So that's been an interesting thing to think about recently.
What are those? What are some of the things that you pay? What are some things that you pay for and you don't get that traction like you would like?
We have been paying for a local wedding magazine for about 5 years now. We've been like a featured vendor in their wedding magazine, and so that means that we pay monthly for just to have our name on their sort of registry of vendors, but we also pay to submit photo shoots to the magazine. And I think, you know, there's some like value to that because the magazine in some ways is well known and has some credit in the industry, and so they can say about all of their vendors like these people are verified. But you know, when you really look at like a profit and loss statement, this is like the inside of our thinking right now. We're just wondering, like, does it really pay to do that, and or does it help us grow our profits to do that? So yeah, that's the biggest one. Every once in a while we'll run an ad on Instagram or Facebook, and we've tried other little like collectives of vendors where you pay monthly to sort of all be on the same platform. But nothing's better than just like being good to people and knowing people and treating them well, whether that's virtually or in person. Like nothing serves you better than that.
Yeah. So Instagram, is that your primary social media platform? Y'all have Facebook? Do y'all tweet?
We have
any
a Facebook.
Twitter?
We don't tweet. We use Instagram and Facebook primarily. We use MailChimp for emails. And we have like an Instagram scheduler and that kind of thing that we use. Oops. But yeah, that's about it for us.
Yeah. Yeah. So whenever you talk about being a principal designer, what does a designer do, and what are some things that you do consistently over and over to become the best designer, Lauren?
So the designer is basically just the art director of the operation. So a lot of times, like concepts, we brainstorm concepts a lot, and we even will. So we do this thing once a year. And then we'll sort of like have an evaluation or check-in at the middle of the year. But it's where we sort of like process like not only on the back end, what do we want our business to like, I don't know, to be able to accomplish this year, what are our goals, but also like what styles or what tone do we want to project from our platforms. So we brainstorm a lot of it, but it's my job to keep my finger on the pulse of, and this sounds kind of weird. Yeah, because I don't know, to keep my finger on the pulse of like the trends. But we're also like always trying to bring back in like what is traditional, what has always lasted. So we will reach back to, I don't know, like classic, I don't know, like art immersion experiences that we had. So one of my favorite painters is Degas, and his technique is like very watercolor driven. But then he adds these like bold black lines in his paintings, and the contrast there is so beautiful. So we want to pull from Degas, and we also like are inspired. I think a lot of people like our approach because we want to be storytellers, and in part we like also want to like learn people's stories so that we can like reflect them back to them on their wedding day. So we deal a lot in like language too. So we lean really heavy on Leah's education and literature. So keeping our finger on the pulse of like what's happening, but also being very aware of like what has been, and like marrying the two. That's what I do in like research. But then on days where we're designing, I will sort of like set the tone for like what the colors might be and how we, and this, I don't know, this might not, it's hard to sort of describe without like a visual, but how can I bridge this really deep burgundy peony to this like peach color ranunculus? I'm always like trying to stay really like limber with color theory, and I don't know, it's just that's what the principal designer does, like art direction.
So do the trends change year to year in your business? How often do the trends change? Or is it from season to season? I don't know how that's approached, but do they change every year? New something coming out? And who influences those trends? Is it the customers, or are there people like yourself who are kind of influencing these trends?
I think there's a tension there, and it's not a bad tension, but we have to find the happy medium. So we like to project trends, or what we think might be coming, but then a lot of times our client will come to us with something that they really love, and a lot of times because we're situated where we are in the country, we will get like the trickle down effect of a trend that was something popular or exciting on either coast 2 years later.
Oh man.
So we the trends, they turn over once every year, and some of them even once every season. We work in like seasonal material, so anyway, it's interesting to watch it happen, but to help project like a new fresh idea is something that we always love doing.
Oh my God. So with social media and online, Oklahoma's still a little bit behind. How?
Totally.
Oh my goodness, that wouldn't even seem to be the case, right?
It's kind of frustrating, but it is true.
Yeah.
I think, one big thing is if vendors are willing to take the risk in like pushing a trend that is sort of unfamiliar here, it has to be supported by other vendors. And ultimately, that's our dog. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Ultimately, we will make a decision for how we produce a wedding based on what our client really wants.
Yeah.
So you end up playing with those tensions a lot, like knowing that, man, you're 2 years late on this one, but I know this is what has been in your head since you were a little girl or whatever, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine. So, Leah, share what the strategist, like, what is it? And the reason I ask these questions because I hope that sometimes I hope my podcast or video crosses some little girl or some young man. And oftentimes we don't know about these different roles or how people are defining these roles for themselves. Like, you all can call yourselves whatever you want, right? But maybe based on the field, you say, okay, this is kind of what that looks like, or this is what different roles are. But you really could have called yourself anything you wanted. And just having kids understand, like, I have a 13-year-old daughter, I have a 15-year-old son. They're in these phases of trying to decide, and so I always go back and talk to them, like, guess who I talked to today? Like, I talked to some floral designer, and guess what they do? Because I'm trying to give them the greatest opportunity to dream big, right? And so that's the reason I asked. So talk to me about what a strategist does. I don't want to take a whole bunch more of your time, but what do you do, and what does your day-to-day kind of look like? I know you do a little bit of everything, but specifically that.
Yeah, that's a good question. We try to evaluate and reevaluate our roles almost annually, if not more frequently. Like, is it really working that I'm pushing in this direction, or should I be in another place? So that shifts and changes all the time. But ultimately, I found comfort in my role being thinking more strategically about how to gain clients. And I think where Lauren is very art driven, I'm a good balance to her, because I can say, okay, I know that you want to order that peony, but maybe it's more cost efficient to order this rose that has, a lower stem or price per stem. We can talk like that with each other. And so I end up being a little bit more watchful of our finances, of our the way that our language comes out on social media, and the way that we address our clients. But I think the biggest thing that the biggest moment so far that really helped me define that role was this last summer. I worked on a customer sort of management tool where it was the first one we ever had, and I don't know why we never had something like this. We were juggling emails and who talked to who last, and things were getting really messy. But we put up this client management tool last summer, and it was a nice process for me to think through, what does our client need to experience from us from point A all the way to their wedding day or their event day, and how are we going to hold ourselves accountable to that really beautiful and unique experience every single time. So doing things like that, like implementing new software or researching new ways of staying organized, that's sort of been my wheelhouse for the last few years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Man, so good. So good. I love it. I love the story. I love how you all are working together as siblings and really doing a great job from what I can hear and what I see of you all. So Go In is about, what are those right things you need to be consistent in to achieve the wins you want for your life to live out your greatest story? Can you all share some right things that you all try to be consistent in to achieve the stories that you want to live out?
Yes.
Share three of them. I don't know if y'all want to combine or whatever you want to do there.
We just lived a season or are on the other end or the other side of a season that was just kind of nightmarish. And out of that season came all of these values that at this point are life values, and they're different. Mine are different from Leah's, but I think one is remaining diligent to the original promise or dream or call, whatever word you want to use, and not losing sight of what that is. I think that it's easy to get distracted. So that's one. And then the other is it's sort of centered around identity, but I think it is so important for me to not live my identity through the wild mother and how many followers she has or how many clients she has. That used to really matter to me, like in an unhealthy way. And at this point, if I, keep my eyes on my own paper and I'm, focused and allow myself, like as the art director of this operation, allow myself the time to be inspired and I don't know, like, and not just look at what might be like what we're socialized to believe is important. I think that sort of like, it kind of pivots my look away from my identity being in the wild mother and my identity being in the way that I was created. So yeah. And I think the bullet point under that thought is like, taking care of myself, as an artist and a woman, I think that is super important. Not letting what I'm a steward to take control of my life and in an unhealthy way. And to be thoughtful and slow about processing how I'm feeling in a moment or in a season or there are lots of little things that I've learned along the way.
Yeah.
We laugh a lot, like we should just write a book.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I
think there's one we both share, and I agree with everything you said. But I'm so motivated by the idea of legacy, and not just like the kind of legacy where you kind of, everyone's patting each other on the back for what a big and beautiful family you've created. But I'm thinking more along the lines of like, sort of some of the cycles that have plagued our family as women of color, just like systemic things that have gotten in the way of wellness in our family. And not, I guess I should say systemic and personal things, because it's a mix of the two. I just really want to be the person that like chooses not to sort of live into those cycles. So recently I've been thinking a lot about living in community and what it really means, and how I'm watching people in this like current scenario we're in, where we're all social distancing. Some of my friends are having a hard time like with basic things like even just the ability to receive help well. So there's a lot of people who are, my friends who are single and living alone, who maybe never knew how to cook before, but when you say like, can I help you with that? Can I share my food and my recipes? They're like, no, I'm good, I'll make it. And it breaks my heart to think about how foundational community is, and how they're missing out on the opportunity to receive. Yeah. So some of those like really core things that I've learned to do, honestly, through business, I've learned to be less of an individual and to be more of a community member. Yeah. Like I want to pass that on to people later down the line. So some of the discomfort that we talked about early on about like, ooh, every day is a risk out here as a business owner. Like I live in that, I lean into it because I really believe that by setting my life up this way, like I will have a lot to pass on to future generations. So that's a big motivator for me.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, ladies. Thank y'all so much. Now the last question I gotta ask is, how'd y'all come up with the name The Wild Mother?
It's a good question. People are always like, do you like your mom? Are you good?
Was your mom wild? Like what in the world?
It came from like some conversations we were having about the nature or the personality of the divine and of the physical world around us. So we see in nature and in the creator that that she is maternal
yeah,
and very nurturing, but also can be fearsome and awe-inspiring. And so early on, it was really important for us to reflect that in all of our designs. We wanted to have a really frilly rose that felt very feminine next to something that looked kind of wicked or spiky or something, crazy, because that was our experience with the divine. So yeah, and that has sort of lived on and evolved over time. But it's a cool name.
Yeah, no. It really is a cool name. The Wild Mother, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much again, Lauren and Leah. We deeply appreciate you having this conversation with me and sharing your story. How can people find you on social media, your website?
So our web is thewildmother.com. Our Instagram is @thewildmother. And if you want to see the women behind the business, I'm at TWM Lauren, and Leah is at Leah A. Palmer.
Yeah.
Cool bean. Well, thank you. And my daughter's gonna have to come intern or something for y'all. She's a creative, but she likes to dig in the dirt as well, and so she says she wants to be a one of the people who go and watch the forest, a forest ranger. Yeah. So she has a lot of different things, but she's definitely an artist, and so I think it would be cool if she come to spend a day or so with you all, and just kind of see what y'all do. So I'm gonna be hitting y'all up about that. Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. We have some books to share with her too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for hitting that play button for another episode of the Hetty Coleman podcast. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go win.